The lunch rush at Mason's Diner was in full swing as Elena Martinez balanced plates and tried to keep her anxiety in check. At 26, she was on her third day as a waitress, desperately needing this job to keep her and her son fed and housed. Her babysitter had cancelled last minute, and Elena had made the risky decision to bring her son Lucas to work. Hiding him behind the counter with strict instructions to stay quiet and out of sight, Lucas sat on the floor behind the counter, a makeshift blanket fort around him, coloring quietly. Elena checked on him between orders, her heart racing every time her manager walked past. She was refilling coffee when a well-dressed man in his mid-30s entered, clearly not a regular. He wore an expensive sweater and jeans, had an air of confidence, and sat at the counter rather than a booth. "Coffee, please," he said with a kind smile as Elena approached. "Right away." Elena poured his coffee, acutely aware that Lucas was directly behind the counter, just feet away from this customer. She was turning to get the man's order when Lucas sneezed, a small, childish sound that immediately gave away his presence. Elena froze. The man looked down, clearly having heard the noise. Their eyes met, and Elena saw her job evaporating before her eyes. "I can explain," she began, her voice shaking. The man held up a hand gently. "Is there a child back there?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "My son. My babysitter cancelled and I could not afford to miss my shift. I know I am not supposed to have him here. Please do not tell my manager. I need this job." Instead of calling for the manager or looking disapproving, the man's expression softened in a way Elena had not expected. He leaned forward and said quietly, "Can I see him?" Confused but desperate, Elena nodded. The man stood and walked around the counter as if he belonged there. Lucas looked up at him with wide brown eyes, still clutching his crayons. The man knelt down to Lucas's level. "Hi there. What are you drawing?" "A dinosaur," Lucas said shyly. "I am being very quiet so Mama does not get in trouble." "You are doing a great job being quiet." The man looked at the drawing seriously. "That is an excellent dinosaur. Is it a T-Rex?" Lucas nodded enthusiastically, temporarily forgetting his instructions to stay silent. The man stood and turned to Elena, who was watching in confused terror. "I was that kid too," he said quietly. "What?" Elena whispered. "When I was about his age, my mum was a waitress. Single mother, working multiple jobs. Sometimes her childcare fell through, and she had to bring me to work. I sat in the kitchen or behind counters, trying to be invisible so she would not get fired." He smiled at the memory. "I remember the fear in her eyes every time someone discovered me. And I remember the one manager who saw me, and instead of firing her, made me hot chocolate and let me sit in his office with coloring books." Elena felt tears stream down her face. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because that manager's kindness changed my mother's life. She was able to keep her job, keep us fed, eventually save enough to go back to school. His compassion mattered more than policy." The man pulled out a business card. "I am Daniel Mason. I own this diner. Actually, I own a chain of 17 diners across 3 states. Elena's knees nearly gave out. She was talking to the owner of the entire company. "Please do not fire me," she said desperately. "I know I broke the rules, but I am not firing you. I am changing the rules." Daniel smiled. "As of today, all Mason's diners will have a small employee childcare area. Just a corner with toys and books where employees' children can stay safely when childcare emergencies happen. Your son just inspired a new company policy. Elena stared at him in disbelief. You are creating childcare because of Lucas. I am creating childcare because I remember being Lucas. Because I know that good employees sometimes face impossible choices between keeping their job and keeping their children safe. Because my mother taught me that compassion is more valuable than rigid policies. Daniel looked at Lucas, still drawing his dinosaur. How would you like a job with better hours and benefits? I need someone to help coordinate this new childcare initiative across all our locations. Someone who understands what working parents actually need. I am a waitress, Alina protested. I do not have experience with you, have experience being a working mother who understands the challenges. That is the expertise I need. The administrative skills can be taught. Daniel pulled out another card with his assistant's number. Call tomorrow. We will discuss details, and Elena, bring Lucas to the interview. I want to meet the dinosaur artist who helped improve my company. Over the following months, Elena helped design and implement childcare areas in all Mason's Diner locations. She worked reasonable hours, earned a real salary with benefits, and Lucas thrived in the safe, loving environment they had built. But beyond the professional relationship, Elena and Daniel became friends. He told her stories about his mother, who had passed away 5 years earlier, and how she had worked multiple jobs to put him through college. Elena told him about her ex-husband who had left, about the struggle of raising Lucas alone, about the terror of nearly losing her job that day. You saved us, Elena told Daniel 6 months after that day when Lucas had sneezed behind the counter. You saved yourself. You made the brave choice to bring your son to work instead of leaving him home alone. You asked for help when you needed it. I just made sure help was available. Daniel paused. And honestly, you saved me too. I had been so focused on profit margins and expansion that I forgot why my mother valued the manager who showed her kindness. You reminded me that the best business decisions are the ones that help people. 1 year after Daniel had whispered I was that kid too, behind a diner counter, he proposed to Alan not in a fancy restaurant, but in one of their diners, with Lucas coloring at a nearby table. You hid your son behind a counter because you needed to work and had no other options. I saw him and remembered being that hidden child, hoping my mum would not get fired. That moment changed both our lives. Daniel knelt with the ring. Elena, will you marry me? Will you let me be Lucas's father and your partner? Will you keep reminding me that business success means nothing if we do not help the people who need it? Through tears, Elena said yes, but only if you promise to always remember that day. That you chose compassion over policy. That you saw a scared single mother and a hidden child and chose to change the system instead of enforcing the rules. I promise, Daniel said, pulling both Elena and Lucas into a hug. How could I forget? I was that kid too. Helping you and Lucas was helping the child I used to be and the mother who raised me. At their wedding, with Lucas as ring bearer, Daniel's vows made everyone cry. My wife hid her child behind a counter because she was desperate. I saw him and recognized myself, the hidden kid whose mother was terrified of losing her job. That recognition changed everything. It reminded me that policies should serve people, not the other way around. Thank you, Elena, for being brave enough to bring Lucas to work. Thank you for showing me that the best way to honor my mother's memory is to help mothers like her. If this story reminded you that compassion changes systems, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment about when someone's understanding changed your life?